Hey friends, it's day 15 and I wanted to talk about why I have such a bee in my bonnet, right, for want of a better word, about tying the diversity and inclusion business case or tying the business case to address systemic racial inequalities in business to economics. So pounds, shillings and pence, right, to the commercial benefits. So because I'm conscious that I keep mentioning it and, people are picking up on little things that I say. So I thought I'd just give you an insight into why I pick and pick and pick at this. So in previous videos, I've talked about the importance of inclusion. So we don't need to talk about that because that's not what this is. I have been commenting about diversity and inclusion, culture fit, belonging, all of that good stuff, like publicly since about 2017. And one of the things, and I'm going to call a spade, right? Because this, I feel like, we all know I'm very honest in my sharing of my views. So many times I've been approached about going to do diversity and inclusion roles. And a good friend of mine who I've known since I was doing my master's degree, Nigel, we've always talked about this. And both of us have both said that we would never do a D&I role. And so the reason why we say that, and it's not to say that there aren't great people, amazing people who do diversity and inclusion. It's not about that. It's about the double bind that if you're black or brown doing a D&I role. So firstly, it's very hard to separate whether or not you're being hired because you're very good or you're seen as being very good versus the optics because you look good, i.e. it looks good to have a black or brown person. That's point one. Point two, when you're trying to push for inclusive practices, that might be training, that might be some stuff around cultural awareness, that might be budgets to do various things to support various underrepresented groups or to do something on a broader cultural piece in the business, you're acutely aware of the colour of your skin, because when you're trying to push for these things, it's very difficult to separate what are you pushing because of your profession versus what are you pushing because of your personal experiences. And the two overlap in my mind. This is for me. Some people are very good at separating the two, but I can't separate it. That's why I would never do it, because I can't separate it. Because what happens is when those business cases are turned down, or when somebody says they don't believe in inclusion, or when somebody says I don't believe in training managers to do X, Y and Z around this, when they don't want to increase the diverse pool of candidates above and beyond just having one token person, I can't help but, that's personal to me is what I'm saying. I can't help it. So because I can't help it, I feel like it impacts on my ability to do that type of role well. So that's why I'm quite happy to talk about it in belonging and give my views of the world about culture fit. But that's one of the reasons why I've been reluctant to go and do a D&I role. Now the other thing is, because in the business world, right, we're so used to justifying everything with numbers, KPIs, metrics, ROIs, like what is going to be the return on investment in pounds, shillings and pence? We've heard, when D&I first started, we heard the conversations that said, don't go on the moral argument. We've all been to the conferences, we've all seen it. Don't go on the moral argument, because this is not about moral arguments. This is about the business, the hard economic truths. It makes sense to have diverse people, because having diverse people means you can, expand into markets. They can understand your customers and different demographics of your customers. You get diverse perspectives from diverse experiences, which means your product or service will land better, and you should increase market share on the back of that. So there's a lot of people that have gone to town on the economic benefits. And to some extent, for a lot of businesses, that has worked because they've tried it, they've seen it, they've worked, and off they go. So even though they may be further along in their D&I practices, if they're really honest, some of the reasons why they've continued to pump budget into it is because they've seen the economic benefits. Now, some people might say, well, it doesn't matter because providing we get to the right outcome, which is, more ethnic minorities or underrepresented groups having the opportunities, does it matter how we got there? For me, kind of, yeah, it does. For me personally, it does. And I get very uncomfortable now as we're starting to talk about racial inequalities and the systemic racism that's baked into the way we do business, right, across the board, not just focused on like recruitment or whatever, all across the board, right? And so what's happening is that whole conversation is resurging. So we're going back to the whole economic argument and My counter argument is one of the reasons why we've got here because of the fact we're still focused on pounds, shillings and pence benefits. Because actually, is it a bad thing to focus on the moral argument? Is it a bad thing to be aware of and address the fact that black people here in the UK are treated as second-class citizens, unintentionally in some instances, intentionally in others? So by avoiding addressing that and making it about another commercial business case like you would do, the investment in a new IT system or a new tech stack, are we not in danger of commoditizing black people by saying that our value as individuals is only in terms of pounds, shillings and pence? And if we do that, what does that remind you of? This whole idea that businesses should care about black people because it makes good business sense. That businesses should care about black people because we help you make money. There are businesses out there who have grown exponentially off the backs of black people. Look at sport, look at music, look at entertainment, look at fashion, look at, across the board, right? So I guess that's where I'm coming from, where I feel uncomfortable. And then when you then add in the last bit, which is, I've said this before, we've had the diversity and inclusion practices, so those traditional approaches, and we've narrowed in what we've done to get it over the line, because it's the only way to get the sign off. But by definition of how many black people in all industries, you name it, that we're singing like canaries everywhere. Film, media, publishing, science, retail, hospitality, the corporate world, the finance world, the VC world. We are speaking out all over. So understand when I say yes, for those people who want to say to me, well, there are some businesses who have done a lot of great work. Yes, they have done good work. But because there hasn't been the focus on black people like there's been the focus on women in boards and women and I'm not saying we're there yet, that's not the point, so don't come for me about that. What I'm saying is we've not applied the same resources and the same energy and the same time and the same attention to those issues as we have done for what it means to be black in the world of work. So when I get chippy about the fact that people are going, it's just broader and D&I, and I'm going, yes, but this is a leadership thing now. This is why I talk about it being a leadership thing, because when you have it for diversity and inclusion, you allow it to be pushed over there, which means if you're a business that doesn't have the budget for, a D&I lead, you don't have the budget to do the traditional stuff that comes with diversity inclusion, so like unconscious bias training, reviewing lots of stuff and all of that good stuff. In theory, it gives you the opportunity to opt out because you say, well, I would love to. Oh my God, I would love to, but I can't afford a D&I person. I can't afford it. No. We can't. Or when we get over COVID-19, because Shereen, don't forget, we've still got the business, we've still got the whole economy is tanking right now. then we'll get to it. And let's also be crystal clear. Also, because of COVID-19, despite the fact that we know that the virus has affected the black community disproportionately to everyone else, diversity and inclusion was dropping off the agendas of most businesses. There's been a resurgence, which is a good thing to a point, because of this whole Black Lives Matter piece. And now publicly businesses are having to talk about what they're doing differently. But not too long ago, it was at the bottom of the list. And like we'll get to it. So all I'm saying is, you know, this is just my view and opinion. There are people who are experts and who've done this for years, but I'm saying this because I just want you to question. Like, everything I do is because I want us to question, and I don't want us to fall into the trap of complacency, regurgitating some of the stuff that we've been doing historically that clearly doesn't work. So if I've got to keep poking, just to say, look, I'm just going to give you like an alternative viewpoint. Might be too radical for some people, but it's a viewpoint, and somewhere in the middle, right? We'll get there. But this is why. So I'm not anti-diversity and inclusion, but what I'm saying is, if we are truly to do something about the racial inequality that black people experience every single day, when we step out of our houses, when we step into our offices, then we have to write a new rule book. And so I love and I appreciate all of the commentary and all of the yeah, but. However, all I will say is just challenge yourself to make sure that this is not being driven by you wanting to justify the work that you've done in the past, because I'm not saying it's a waste of time ish. I kind of am, but you know what I mean. I'm not saying like you're not good. This is not a personal attack on anybody. What I'm saying is collectively, this is what it means to have those real honest conversations about the way that we've done stuff. And actually, even if this wasn't about Black Lives Matter, or, you know, my thing, show us Black Lives Matter, I would challenge anybody to have that same approach for all parts of the business, for everything a business does, because that's getting into the innovation world, right? That's what it means to innovate. That's what it means to experiment. So rather than have like this fear and this whole like, oh God, I don't know what to do, like we really want to do something, and this whole thing about making it perfect, this is not about making it perfect, this is about having a go. You know, this is about, there might be some things, experiment with some things, take it seriously, you know, be clear on who you're going to bring in to support, think about all the areas of your business, and I can talk about that in later videos, don't worry about it, but I'm just saying, think about the totality of your business, the totality of your ecosystem, because that's what it's going to take. It takes a village. It's not one business on its own isolation, it's your supply chain, it's everything, who you use, and we'll get into that. That's going to make me really unpopular when I get into that, but we will get into that. So that's why I have this bee in my bonnet about diversity and inclusion, and I know I don't have to convince anybody, but you know, I always want people to be clear and understand where I'm coming from, even if you don't agree with my position. So as usual, thank you for listening and engaging. Keep sending me the comments, because it does work, it helps. You know, people are reading, you know, they're challenging themselves every time. So never think that, you know, it doesn't make a difference, because it does. These are like the micro things, right, that we need to keep doing, keep the conversation flowing. So thank you.